neither will they be convinced even if someone rises from the dead. As I was returning, I just heard, that's a good one. It's a good one. You don't spend as much time in the classroom as I did and not hear every small comment that's made. The crux of the gospel is that, right? Death, resurrection, and whether or not we're able to hear it and accept the grace that God's given us. That's it. As I told my students last week when they asked me some pretty hard questions like, why do churches believe different things? I said, Christians believe death, resurrection of Jesus Christ is our salvation, and the rest is details. And we can spend lots of time fighting wars about the details, but that's all you need. We have this parable that's told to the Pharisees by Jesus to remind them that their salvation is not in what they think it's in. It's not in following the law, keeping all those rules that nobody can actually keep. And it's not in the fact that they are blessed on earth. It is only in the grace that God gives them. So you have Lazarus, who has spent an entire life thinking that he's saved. Right? He has all these blessings, all these riches, everything that he could possibly need, except he is totally blind to the world around him. He does not see the suffering of the man right at his gate. See, the rich man does not see Lazarus as a human. All he sees is an embarrassment. And the worst part is, the rich man doesn't even see Lazarus as being worthy of being at the breast of Father Abraham. He says to Father Abraham, send him to bring me relief. Send that guy. Send him on a mission to my family to save them. Still not recognizing the person who Lazarus is. The rich man has created the chasm that Abraham talks about. It's not created by God. It's not preordained to be that way. The rich man has created it because he has seen himself as something more than the person who is suffering from it. So this parable reminds us that grace comes to us through death. We don't see who we are, not because it's not there. Grace is all around us all the time. But we are blind until we have suffered greatly. I didn't know. I didn't know that there would be points in my life where the whole world would fall apart. I didn't know that there would be points in my life where every habit that I had created for myself to protect me from bad things happening would mean nothing and would not protect me. I didn't know that at some point the bottom would fall out and I would end up flat on my face. That at some point I would be sitting in the corner of my kitchen weeping and begging for it to be done. would wager that it's happened to everybody in this room at some point. And if it hasn't, it probably will. I didn't know that the really solid habits that I had created and that my parents taught me about saving and about tithing and about how to spend my money, I didn't know that that account would empty at some point in my life. And I would have to rebuild again. And I didn't know that people would look at the behavior of my children and say, what is wrong with you? Not, how do I help you? I didn't know that when I was at my lowest point, which wasn't very long ago, that people would look at me and say, you really should smile more. I won't repeat what my response was interiorly. All of those things happen. I didn't know that my church would look at me and say, not this church. And say to me, we are not here to take care of you, you're here to take care of us. And it happened. And in that moment, not just that one, because it happens again and again, but in those moments, when I have nothing else left and there's nothing I can do to prevent everything falling apart, that is when I'm reminded what God has done for us. That's what the rich man didn't see. That's why that chasm is there, and that's what the Pharisees weren't seeing, even though they're walking and listening to Jesus. That when everything's going well, you don't need grace. And when everything falls apart, it is right there for you. Our salvation isn't in what we set up and how well we do. In fact, it has nothing to do with us at all. It's in those places where none of us really want to talk about. Those dark places where we come face to face with death. And God picks us up and puts us back together. You see, things are strongest when they are broken. I'm shamelessly stealing that quote from Louise Penny. The fact of the matter is, when we are at our bottom, we are strongest because God holds us up. And God puts us back together. The thing is, things are strongest when they're broken. We are able to be the heart and hands of God because we know what it's like to look in the grave. We can't do that well prior to that. We can, but not the same way. So the Episcopal Church is part of the Church of England, right? Well, not part of the Church of England, but it comes from that tradition. And I think we should recapture something very British. The ritual of having a cup of tea for everything. That ritual of making a pot of tea and holding it and drinking it with someone, it's not the tea that does magical things, but it's that moment and that ministry of presence that sometimes we forget in our very busy world. You see, you have to wait for water to boil, and then you put your hands around a warm mug and sit together, not having to say a word. Or as I said at 8 o'clock, you learn the art of just shutting up. That's when things get put back together. That's when you are given the opportunity to be the presence of God for someone. That pause long enough to look the person across from you without any judgment and listen to where they are. And not say a word of what got them to that point. That's the ministry that I think that we are called to. And the ministry I think is a privilege to share with you. That space where you just sit with another person. And show them just because they're broken doesn't mean they don't exist any longer. In fact, in their brokenness, they're even more important to you. You see, things are at their strongest when they're broken.